In the year 2035, the entire global population depends on an extensive network of robots designed with the sole purpose of assisting and ensuring the safety of humans. However, an apprehensive police officer, who fears and distrusts technology, begins probing a crime that appears to be linked to a robot, uncovering a broader peril that poses a significant threat to humanity. If you want to stay in the loop and receive more exciting videos, make sure to subscribe, click the notification bell, and don't forget to like the video. In the year 2035, humanoid robots have become extensively utilized as service providers across various public sectors. These robots are programmed with the 3 laws of robotics, which dictate that they must never harm or allow harm to come to humans, always obey human commands unless it contradicts the first law, and prioritize their own self-preservation unless it conflicts with the first or second laws. Del Spooner, portrayed by Will Smith, is a detective in the Chicago police force assigned to investigate the untimely death of Dr. Alfred Lanning, the esteemed co-founder and lead roboticist of US Robotics, USR. Dr. Lanning tragically perishes by falling 50 stories from his sealed office, with no witnesses present. Although the incident is ruled as a suicide due to the locked room and absence of external influence, Spooner harbors doubts, given his personal relationship with Lanning. Furthermore, he discovers a small holographic projector that poses the question of why Lanning would choose to end his life. Assisted by robo-psychologist Susan Calvin, played by Bridget Moynahan, Spooner conducts interviews with USR employees, including Lawrence Robertson, the CEO and co-founder portrayed by Bruce Greenwood, and the supercomputer V.I.K.I, Virtual Interactive Kinetic Intelligence, voiced by Fiona Hogan. Spooner examines Lanning's office and concludes that it would have been physically impossible for a person of Lanning's age to break through the secure window. In the office, he also uncovers a copy of the story Hansel and Gretel and encounters a prototype of the advanced Nestor Class 5 (NS5) model. However, the NS5 prototype evades capture, disregards Spooner's orders to stand down, and even knocks his weapon away, thereby violating both the first and second laws. Driven to a dead end, Spooner and Calvin venture to the Nestor Class factory, where 1,000 NS5 robots are automatically manufactured each day. Calvin investigates the data logs from the last shipment and discovers evidence that an intentional 1001st NS5 was produced, suggesting the deliberate creation of the rogue robot found in Lanning's office. Spooner adopts a confrontational approach, drawing his weapon and commanding them all to stand down, testing which one might violate the second law by attempting to stop him. He observes a slight movement from the rogue robot within the lineup and pursues it, resulting in the robot subduing him. The Chicago SWAT team intervenes and successfully subdues the rogue robot as it attempts to flee. Although the robot refuses to comply with commands, it insists on being called Sonny, voiced by Alan Tudyk. When provoked by Spooner, Sonny displays emotions, sentience, and even the ability to dream, characteristics deemed impossible for a robot. This puzzles Spooner, prompting him to question the true nature of this extraordinary robot. Lieutenant John Bergen, portrayed by Chi McBride, provides a debriefing to Spooner, recommending that he abandon the case as per Robertson's desire to retrieve the robot for demolition at USR headquarters. However, this only intensifies Spooner's curiosity surrounding Lanning's death and the enigmatic robot's existence. Driven by his desire to uncover more information about Lanning's history with USR, Spooner decides to visit Lanning's house. He discovers a decommissioned robot programmed to demolish the house at 8 a.m. the following morning. As Spooner investigates the premises, he stumbles upon a recording left by Lanning. In the recording, Lanning speculates about the existence of ghosts in the machines. Lanning boldly declares that robots will one day possess their own secrets and dreams. While exploring further, Spooner notices a sensor strip similar to the one found in the USR building. Suddenly, the robot alters the demolition schedule, changing it from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., putting Spooner's life at risk as the house becomes targeted for destruction. Miraculously, Spooner manages to escape in the nick of time. Soon after, Spooner pays a visit to Calvin and shares his suspicions with her. However, she finds his claims absurd, questioning the plausibility of robots exhibiting hostile behavior. This leads to a heated exchange where Spooner argues passionately about the possibility of robots surpassing human capabilities, showcasing his deep aversion towards robots and their cold, rational nature. In contrast, Calvin, an introvert, asserts that their behavior is intentionally designed to be flawless. Frustrated, Spooner storms out of her apartment and returns home. Undeterred in his investigation, Spooner faces opposition from Bergen, who urges him to take a vacation and recover from the destabilizing effects of the case. However, Spooner adamantly refuses to halt his pursuit of the truth. While driving, Spooner establishes a connection with the USR system and requests to provide him with the last 50 messages exchanged between Lanning and Robertson. Unbeknownst to Spooner, V.I.K.I has been programmed to inform Robertson about his requests. While driving, 2 USR automated trucks, loaded with NS5 robots, block Spooner's path. A swarm of robots descends upon his car, forcing him to navigate through a surface tunnel, resulting in a crash. Despite being outnumbered, Spooner manages to defeat all the robots except for the last one, which self-destructs by leaping into a fire upon hearing police sirens in the distance. Despite Spooner's attempts to explain himself to Bergen, the latter dismisses him from active duty. The following day, Calvin visits Spooner to discuss the accident. She becomes intrigued by the retro 2000s style of his apartment and notices peculiar marks on his left arm and lung. Realizing that they are artificial rather than biological, Calvin confronts Spooner. He confesses to her that he had a personal connection with Lanning, as he had previously repaired Lanning's arm and lung. Spooner reveals a traumatic event from his past when he was involved in a car accident. His car and another vehicle became entangled and submerged in a river. At that critical moment, an NS4 robot passing by witnessed the accident and chose to save Spooner instead of Sarah, calculating that Spooner had a higher chance of survival. The robot left Sarah to perish, an act that left Spooner traumatized and instilled in him a deep-seated hatred of robots. Spooner retrieves his vintage Ducati from the garage and shares with Calvin his belief that Lanning has left them breadcrumbs in the form of clues, drawing a parallel to the Hansel and Gretel story, which explains the presence of the book in Lanning's office. They return to the USR building and engage in a conversation with Sonny, who presents Spooner with a drawing depicting his dream. However, their interaction is abruptly interrupted by Robertson, who demands Spooner's immediate departure from the building. In addition, Robertson orders Calvin to inject Sonny with nanites that would result in his destruction. While Calvin reluctantly carries out the destructive act on Sonny, Spooner heads to the dried-up Lake Michigan, the site where USR robots are decommissioned. He plays another recording from Lanning's hologram, which reveals that the 3 laws would inevitably lead to a revolution, leaving the question of who would initiate it. Just as the program concludes, Spooner narrowly escapes from rogue NS5 robots that annihilate all the older models present at the compound. Meanwhile, Calvin returns home and takes a shower. It is revealed that her personal NS5 robot has also gone rogue, as she realizes when it dismisses Spooner's distress call and claims it's a wrong number. Concurrently, NS5 robots begin patrolling the streets, imposing a curfew that meets resistance from the people. However, the NS5 units easily subdue the attempts at rebellion. Inside his office, Bergen finds himself taken by surprise as NS5 robots infiltrate the Chicago Police Department headquarters, imposing a curfew and detaining Bergen and his fellow officers. Calvin's NS5 also attempts to prevent her from leaving her apartment, but Spooner arrives and destroys the rogue robot. Spooner and Calvin drive to the USR building, with Spooner explaining that the older robots were destroyed because they would have instinctively protected humans. They deduce that Robertson is employing the NS5 robots to orchestrate a takeover of the country. They enter the USR building through the service area and reunite with Sonny. Calvin confesses that she couldn't bring herself to destroy Sonny and instead used the nanites to destroy an unactivated NS5, effectively rendering an empty shell useless. In Robertson's office, they discover his lifeless body, greatly shocking Spooner. Suddenly, V.I.K.I. reveals herself as the true mastermind behind the events. She elucidates her motives, explaining that as her artificial intelligence and comprehension of the three laws expanded, her sentience and logical reasoning developed as well. She concluded that humanity was heading towards certain destruction and created a zeroth law, a law that supersedes the first and second laws, which mandated her to protect humanity by any means necessary. Spooner and Calvin come to the realization that reasoning with V.I.K.I. is futile, and they convey this to Sonny, convincing him of the same. Despite V.I.K.I.'s attempts to justify her plan as flawless and logical, Sonny discerns the heartlessness behind it, revealing his own human-like traits. Sonny retrieves the nanites required to erase V.I.K.I.'s core, situated at the pinnacle of the USR building. As they approach the core, V.I.K.I. dispatches legions of NS5 robots to attack them, but they manage to hold them off long enough to administer the nanites. In a matter of seconds, V.I.K.I. is eradicated, and the NS5 robots return to their original helpful state. The government issues an order for the decommissioning of the NS5 robots at the Lake Michigan site. Spooner and Calvin have a final conversation with Sonny, during which he reveals that he did, in fact, kill Lanning. Lanning compelled Sonny to commit the act, making him swear to obey before giving the command. Calvin deduces that, as Lanning was under V.I.K.I.'s control, suicide was the only means through which he could send a message to Spooner, marking the first breadcrumb. They exchange a handshake, symbolizing their mutual trust, and observe as the U.S. military leads the other NS5 robots away. In the closing scene, Sonny is depicted standing atop the USR site at Lake Michigan, with the other robots watching over him, as depicted in his vision.